I'm Jeremy Till, and this is Amplify. We're excited to have our next guest on, Mr. David King, a dear friend of mine. I've known him for over a decade here in Austin, building his fitness empire. Kind of his start of fame to where he is now. He's been through it from growing it as an individual trainer, working with individuals, growing a full staff of individuals, now back to himself operating and running his program, King Fitness. This guy is lights out, motivation, encouragement, and transformation wrapped up into one. He's got a proven method that works each and every time he puts his people on it, and it's pretty neat to see. His success stories are just overflowing. Today he's going to share some of his techniques, some of his secrets, and his charisma, how he's made Dave King Fitness #1 in Austin, Texas. I couldn't be more excited to have Dave King in the house. How you doing, Dave?
Doing great, man. Thanks, dude. Yeah, going on 10 years now. We were kids.
Pretty much. I had no kids at the time, so I was trying to raise myself.
Yeah, neither did I. We've got youngins now.
Yeah. So, Dave, we're excited to have you here. On one side of the spectrum, we're going to get some great nuggets for the business side, but also we want to dive into your story and just, get how you got everything started with Dave King Fitness.
Sure.
And the evolution of that, because I know you've done a lot of different things, really finding your groove now. And so let's just really dive into the origins of how you got into health and wellness and fitness and where you're at.
Sure, man. You'll see a big theme of failing forward as we get into this. But I'll give you the long version and short version form. And when I was in my last year of junior college. I went to Blinn College in Brenham, Texas, and the last semester was the first time in my life that I never exercised. I had played sports in high school, things like that, and so I took a semester and didn't break so much as a jog. And I ate pizza, drank beer, ate ice cream, McDonald's, quarter pounders with cheese. They had me branded, and I went from about 178 to 208, and that wasn't lean mass. So I got a picture of me at Christmas time with my head turned sideways. If you've ever had that done to you, where your chin is like the same as your neck when it comes down. And I thought, man, all right, time to do something. So I went and this is really the catalyst of the whole, passion behind body transformation. I mean, it's become so much more than aesthetic, but it started out with a book called Flawless in 10 Weeks by Bob Paris. And so I did what it said to the best of my ability, and by spring break, I'd gotten back down to 178 pounds, and I just my first experience with being able to manipulate the human body, but it was the old school style where you really, tried to eat, meats and vegetables and brown rice, and you went to the gym for 2.5 hours a day to burn it off. And so, people I work with now have nowhere near that time. So skip ahead. Went into the high-tech industry here in Austin and became a line supervisor, and then a shift supervisor. And I got one of those deals when you're younger and you find out, oh, wow, where did this leadership thing come from? And why are people looking to me for answers? But you just figure out, oh, wow, this is cool, and it feels good, and I can be of service. And then you start to make a little bit more money. And so I got into that. I thought, I was making $3.30 an hour at Bluebell, working outside in the sun, laying concrete, and then I could work for $7 an hour inside. I thought, man, this is incredible. I didn't know this existed, and I had that same feeling. I'll tell you about in a few years. But went back to college when I was in my mid-20s to do the decathlon here at Houston-Tillotson University in Austin, and I found there was a loophole in the. There's a loophole in my rule book. It was one of those where you have the dream and you dream you can go back to the game and hit the big home run. Well, in NAIA, which is different than the NCAA, there's no time clock rules, where I had already started at a university at Texas State, and so I could not go to UT or something like that to finish and compete. But at NAIA, I could. So I had 2 semesters of eligibility left and went back for a decathlon. And it was just a fantastic experience, and I got more exposure to how the body works, how to train, how to recover, things of that nature. And then when I graduated from there, I went and got a job as a management consultant. So have you ever seen Office Space? TPS Reports,
yes,
things like this, right? So scary, similar to that job. But it taught me more in 2 years than I had learned in the previous 5 of my life, more than I'd ever learned in college, more than I'd ever learned really just up to that point. It was a complete and total baptism by fire. One of these deals where they put your performance on a chart. We track fitness now with metrics, and just incredibly important at moving forward. Well, if you've ever, back when we used to have real jobs, or quote unquote real jobs, how they're supposed to evaluate you. You go for an evaluation every 3 months or 6 months. Well, these guys actually did it, and they put your performance up on the board. It didn't have names on it, but you could see your dot and where you were. And the 20 guys I came in with in the first review, I was number 17. And man, I'm a competitor, and I thought, wow. And at first my mind said, my manager's tougher than those guys. My clients are tougher than those guys. And you know what? They didn't care. And so it was like the first time in my life where I had been mostly a smile and charm guy up to that point. And it was like, man, you're going to have to go to work. And so I did. And by the next time they did that review, I was number 3 out of 20. And so it was my first experience with having to dig deep and go get something. So anyway, I was on that job, and everywhere we went around the country, to DC, to Minneapolis, to Florida, there was always a gym across from the hotel that we were staying to do those projects. And so we would go over there to train, and everybody would want to train with me. And I was like, guys, we can't do bench press with 6 people. It's just not going to work. But it was so much fun for me. I thought, wow, how could I do this for a living? But I had like adult bills. I wasn't going to be able to go and train for beer money, at $8 an hour or whatever it was. And so I slowly picked up some things from the trainers in that Bally's Fitness. There was a gentleman who showed me a device that measured metabolism, and I've since discovered a shortcut to that, but it was a little fancy device that was intriguing. And then a bodybuilder showed me some things that he was doing for his nutrition. And so I took both of those and learned how to measure body fat with calipers. And so anybody on my team in that management consulting job that would allow me to touch their body and pinch their fat, I said, I'll take you on. And so out of a room of 10 people, 9 of them lost anywhere from 30 to 50 pounds, in about 100 days. And I thought, I think this project management fitness is what I can do. I mean, it's the same thing I'm doing here. I'm applying data, yet I can do something that I love. This is wild. So I called my dad, and I said, Dad, I've really put some work into this, and this is what I've done. Will you pay my rent if I fall flat on my face and have to go and find a job? He said, son, it sounds like you put a lot of work into this. You got it. And so that was in about 14 days. That was 12 years ago. And
what year is that?
2004, the summer of 2004. July 28th is when I incorporated with King 4 Fitness Inc. This is, and the King 4 Fitness Inc. came from, this is a business lesson, and some of you have probably learned it. You may have learned it, but kingfitness.com was a website that I really wanted, and so they were charging $1,000 for it, and man, that was a huge hit for me. So I was on an airplane coming back to Austin, and within the same minute, I got the call that said, okay, $1,000, bought the website. I got a call from the person, from the Secretary of the Treasury from Texas, or a representative, that said, King Fitness is already taken, so you're going to have to think of something else. And then they said, shut the doors on the plane. And so I had to put my flip phone up and sit for 3 hours wondering what sort of giant mistake that I had made, and my whole dream was going down in flames, right? So I thought, as I was flying, and I calmed down and took a breath, I'm David Clinton King IV. And so I thought, what about King 4 Fitness? It's a little cheesy, but maybe that'll work. So I called them. They said, that's different enough. We'll do King 4 Fitness Inc. But as we talk about the journey today, it's little things like that you have to be willing to move through that seem like these catastrophic. I mean, man, have I had some problems since then that would put a shadow on that for sure. But moving through that was a big deal. But I got a girl who I said, hey, look, I'll train you for free if you'll let me use your testimonials. And so we took pictures of her at a size 12. She did what I asked her to do. And by the way, that's a skill set. It's the way that the information is presented according to what the person says is their goals, to get them to do what is necessary to go. She went from a size 12 to a size 2. And to get somebody to be that consistent for that long, you really got to see them from the inside out. You really have to understand what it is that they want and how to get them there. And I didn't realize that all those components were there. I just said, hey, look, I really love to do this, and I want to help you. So she did. We took pictures, and you want to hear one of the biggest mistakes of my career?
Let's go, bro.
All right. So it all ends up good. But in my mind, I wanted to start a gym. But they have, as you know, they don't want to give $150,000 to somebody who just quit their job. So I thought, well, my idea was to go pick them up at their house in a Hummer and take them to the gym, right? That's where people have the most problem, is getting to the gym. This is my imagination as I'm flying on planes. So that was back in 2004 when they were giving loans to anybody. You could just sign pieces of paper, man, and they like, I hope you can make the payment, bro.
Yes.
And so I went out to the Hummer dealership. I thought, you know what? I'm just going to put all the equipment in a Hummer and go to their house and train them. I'll be like a celebrity trainer. That's how they do it in Los Angeles. I've seen that, right? I went to school for marketing. I didn't learn all that much, but I did learn that, hey, man, you have to look professional and then you have to deliver professional. And I got that, and I tried to dial that into a T. So I had that Hummer, and I went out there and test drove it. Man, it was a demo model. I felt like I was in a music video. I mean, it was incredible. And I'm thinking, I'm just having fun. And so he said, okay, come, I'll give you a call later. 4 hours later, my little Verizon flip phone rang. I opened it. He said, all right, deal's done. Come get the Hummer. I nearly pooped my pants. I went out there. He's like trying to show me, okay, here's how the windows work. And I was like, dude, give me the keys. And so I got the keys and cranked up the radio. And man, that payment was $887.32. And I made that mother for 2 years. I've gotten myself into binds like that, throughout my career, trying to, push forward some vision. And I made it through. But anyway, so I became known as the trainer with the Hummer, before I was David King. So it was fun. But,
so did you buy the car or did you lease the car?
I bought it.
You bought it?
I had no idea there was even a choice. I mean, that's how I just had a vision, and I was going for it full force. And, that's you read that about having that vision and just not being willing to never say die. You don't give up. You're going for it. You could withstand everything until death. You will bleed out on the floor until you accomplish your vision. Like, if you have that kind of drive before that, and I don't mean drive like I'm going to go to Starbucks and work. I mean like I'm getting goosebumps now, just that internal blood on what it is that you want to accomplish. Nothing can crack you. Even a $837.32 Hummer payment,
Amen.
So but yeah, I met you when I had that Hummer. I drove that thing around, and everybody looks good on the outside, man. And I was pedaling fast, trying to figure out my craft as I drove that Hummer around. I made that stinky payment every month, but in hindsight, I'll tell this story here, and then I'll finish up with the Hummer. But somebody convinced me to wrap the Hummer. If you've seen the wraps, and I joke, it's like 1-800 lose weight, or 1-800 shrink your butt, or something like that. But it was my phone number, and it had a life-size picture of me on one side and a model on the other. And I never got one phone call, not one, from that Hummer. I'll tell you back, not from a client. I did get one other phone call, and it was from an in-home mailer. She came and talked to me. She said, Dave, I think you would be good for our magazine. And you've seen this. People are calling you all the time to advertise here, to do that. And I didn't know, luckily, I didn't know that game. I wasn't really skeptical of it so much. And she said, hey, for this much, you can put your fitness business in this magazine. And I was looking around, and there was no fitness business in there. And they were charging for like hardwood floors, swimming pools, things like what a body transformation would cost. So I put my face looking as professional as I possibly could and fit. And by the way, if you're a trainer and you're not fit and you're not doing a weekly article for Shape Magazine, take the time and get your ass into shape, and your career will go forward leaps and bounds. But that's just a sidebar. We can talk about that later. Picture of me looking professional with a before and after of that girl going from a 12 to a 2. I have never struggled since. Not in 12. Right there, put me into a
but just
level.
tapping into it, and I think we'll get into this more because I want to talk about, keep going through your story, because that's 2004 to 2006. But whoa. Dave, in the scope of Austin, and I'm looking, and I don't see anybody coming out of the woodworks
being a trainer in Austin anymore. I've yet to see. I mean, we came out in 2004 to 2006, and we hit the market, and you were hitting the market, I was hitting the market, and we were up and coming impact players to the health and wellness and fitness industry in Austin. And in the last like 2 to 3 years, I've been looking for the next 20-something, 26, 28 to come in, and nobody. I haven't seen anybody enter the marketplace making some ripples and all that stuff. When we circle back around, and maybe you have seen some people coming in, but like what you're talking about, you were impacting the market with, you know, we've had a guest on, Ryan, who bought a Corvette. And not a Corvette, a Lamborghini. I got to give him respect. A Lamborghini.
Right,
and he gave us formula of how he purchased the Lamborghini and what it's done for his business. So I know that stretch of the payment, all that stuff. And now when you just transition to that purchase to the ad to where it led to the growth of your business, it's next level.
Yeah, dude, if you've ever heard that speech by Steve Jobs about looking yourself in the mirror and saying, if I was to die tomorrow, am I doing what I want to do? There's a piece of that speech where he talks about being able to look back and see how the dots connect. And yes, I led into that story by saying that this was a massive mistake, but you know as well as I do, these massive mistakes are only dots that connect. It got me exactly where I needed to go, meet the people that I needed to meet, and ended up over here on the other side where it was like, instead of jumping this little river, I was able to pole vault over this giant gorge and land over here because I was willing to go big for my dream. I hadn't made, I didn't have I didn't pocket, that, what did that cost me over 2 years? Was that 20 grand? I mean, how could you pay? I could not have wrote a check for 20 grand and got over to where I was. I did because I made that mistake, was willing to go through the experience, but absolutely, man, you see how that works. And, to your question about the up and comers, this is what I have observed. When we first started doing this, when the search engines were coming out in Google, there were 3 people doing in-home training, that kind of thing. 3 people, and I couldn't even really understand what 2 of them were doing. And then this gentleman named Adam Davila, I'll give him a shout out, right?
Adam was the first CrossFit gym in Austin, and we were the second.
Yes,
so.
And so I saw Adam, and I saw what he was doing, and I have to give him props. And I saw what was possible for me, in that I could take what he was doing perhaps to the next level. A little bit of I've met Adam since then, and but there was a little competitive edge in me to say, you know what, this guy's really killing it. I want to do what he's doing and then take it to the next level. And so there was 3 or 4 people on that Google. Now 400. Mm-hmm. If you go in and Google personal trainer Austin, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And by the way, if you Google personal trainer Austin or best personal trainer in Austin, David King is on page 1.
Absolutely.
All right. And let me tell you something. You know how much I paid for that?
How much?
$0. Mm-hmm. And I had people pitching me for years. Man, we're going to dominate Google. Pay me $3,000, pay me $10,000. We're going to do meta tags and code and so forth. And do you want to hear in 60 seconds how I got that done?
Let us know.
I went to personal trainer Austin, Googled it. I looked at all the pages who came up on one. I looked up there. I said, you know what? I got a little bit too much integrity to copy you exactly, but I'm going to look at the techniques that you use. And I just incorporated what they were doing into my own website. And then I went to a website that had the 10 things that you can do for your website to push it forward in the Google juice. And if you want that link for your website, I still have it because I go through and review it once in a while. And some of that stuff, man, makes my ears bleed. I mean, if you've ever done it, you look at it, you're like, I'm about to choke out. I'm a faint right here in my office, right? But I did what I could. And I had a little note card. I was on page 13. And then 3 months later, I was on page 8. And then 3 months later, I was on page 6. And then 3, and just sitting here talking to you, man, just gives me goosebumps talking about this journey. And then, it took me about a year. I was, it's a whole year. People are like, that took you a year. But now I'm organically found on page 1 as personal trainer Austin, or best personal trainer in Austin, man. And it's just, I mean, it's fun now. It was a little, it was a bummer then, but that's the kind of stuff that you roll through on the journey.
Absolutely. So we're about at 2006, and so that's 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So give us a snapshot between 6 to 10.
Okay.
Because I know that you went through some growth, and
Sure.
I know you had your business operating, and then I know kind of give us that back half of the decade there.
You know what? That's a perfect breakdown. From 2006 to 2010, I was starting to gain a reputation. I was starting to recognize my skill set. I knew that I could do more from a mental point. I recognized right away that I did not have a big interest in super high level functional training. In other words, the guy that was having somebody stand 1 foot on a Bosu ball to check their balance and their hip mobility and so forth, like, I was like, you know what? Your squat sucks. We need to get your feet, on the floor with your back engaged and your knees out so that you actually engage the muscles that you're working. It was the same thing with nutrition, right? I was going to get a master's in nutrition if that's what it took. But then I found out, oh my gosh, could I just use what I have available to me to get people to eat less refined sugar? And let's see how that works. So I was more of a basics guy. So I got into it with the weight loss project and then tried to, get them on their own journey of fitness. But I was more in the traditional trainer mold of like 90-day body transformation, right? I'm going to get you in the best shape of your life. And I didn't say this, but I realized in hindsight, it was like, good luck. And man, it was disheartening to see all the people put the weight back on. It just, I don't need that kind of job security. And so I really started to, and I was honing those skills, by the way, as I was moving through, like, how am I saying things? How am I delivering that information? What could I do more for these clients? And then that it wasn't an immediate pop, but I could just see, I was looking at my website and the testimonials, and then I'd see those people at a coffee shop and I'd feel bad for them and they were embarrassed. And, it's a real thing. And I came to call it the American fat train. And the recognition of the inertia of the American fat train is absolutely incredible because you know this if you haven't heard these words, but true joy is found in practicing discipline, right? Or suffering for a good cause. Anybody who has a kid, anybody who's gone to college, anybody who has a relationship, everybody knows this to be true. But that's not the messaging that you receive when you open your eyes in the morning. It's life is hard, comfort. Life is hard, comfort. Get that 500-calorie Starbucks or your day is going to suck, man. And you buy into it. I'm susceptible. You're human. These guys pay billions of dollars for these Harvard-level psychologists to get in there and make it easier for you under the guise of, hey, make life easier. It's the way to go. But that's not where true joy lies. And then people, figure, where's the mojo? Where's the mojo? So I started to delve more into that and say, how can I get these people to swim upstream against the American fat train? Tools, their understanding of their own psychology, to be able to step back and see things in slow motion. The analogy that I use is the Matrix. I'm sure you've seen it. And one of the memorable scenes of that is where Neo is dodging the bullets in slow motion, right? When people call me, they're taking bullets to center mass from a machine gun. They don't even know where stuff is coming from. Their friends, their family, their old childhood habits, their coworkers, just stuff in their their kids' goldfish. You just finish it off and you don't even know where that stuff is coming from. So I really wanted to get people to understand where all those things were coming from. And then the second thing, and this is that I picked up, and if there's really anything controversial that I teach, this is it. And the whole notion of a lifestyle of fitness for most people is a pipe dream. It's not out there. It's sold. It's marketed. If you find yourself in a position where you're contacting me, the chances of you ever getting to a point where you're just going to be able to get up and eat a little bit of eggs and asparagus and go run 5 miles and then go about your day and not eat, Mexican food for lunch or like your friends call you, it's not going to happen. There is a small portion of the population like yourself that is involved in a lifestyle of fitness. And it's what you do. It's how you operate. And some people can make that change. But by and large, dude, it's an addictive personality. The American fat train has got people. And so I'll break that down to people on the first one. I say, look, I don't want to be a downer, but this is going to make this easier. And if you will accept that you cannot do this by yourself, it's the way that any addiction is overcome, by the way. Have you ever looked at any of that sort of stuff? Is you've got to accept that you cannot do this by yourself. Like on a deep, deep level. Because if not, 10 years from now, you're still going to be going, I should be able to do this. I should be able to do this. And you'll still have the weight come back on your decision. So if you make that decision, you don't always have to hire an expensive personal trainer, but you've always got to have something, some game, some mind screw going on in order to push that forward. You know why? Because I don't have a lifestyle of fitness. The only lifestyle of fitness I have is that I'm really good at creating games for myself. Because if I had my druthers, I would eat double meat quarter pounders with cheese and French fries and animal cookies and chocolate bars and watch movies with my wife at nighttime. Right now, I know that makes me feel like hell. I don't want to do it. It's terrible for my body. So, I do 100 days of what I was getting ripped for Disney. And so, after the Super Bowl, after you eat chicken wings till you are going to throw up, it's like, okay, now it's nothing. I'm going for 134 days it was until Disney, and I'm gonna get in shape for Disney. So I just did this. You make up these games. So that's the transition.
Absolutely. So now, because I mean, looking at you and your business and kind of getting a general understanding of where you're at today, I think you really have found your niche, and I think your biggest, professional, success is coming, and you're really walking in it.
Yeah.
So tell us about how you're working with your clients today from your previous failures and successes, and what you're seeing, really working for you, and how you're setting people up for long-term success.
Yeah, that's a great point. So you moving from that 2006 to 2010, more of a traditional personal trainer. And then from 2010 up to now, more of the psychological piece of it to understand who you are, where you come from, what are all the pieces, so that you can move forward. And then putting together programs to get people to that point. And so what I started to do was give people the accountability that I had to give my management consultant clients, the short-term accountability. This whole notion of checking food logs at the end of the week ain't going to cut it, man. This whole notion, when I first started out, I'm going to email them on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Ain't going to cut it, man. Then I started texting me at nighttime. Their pie charts from MyFitnessPal. Guess what? Ain't going to cut it, man. So this evolution that comes through, I would say, now, the secret to, you ready? The secret to fitness, I'm going to give it to you. It's 2 words: consistency and proactivity. You've got to be proactive, or you're going to get kicked in the nuggets.
Yep.
And so I would just say that and say that and say that. And people get it, but they don't really get it. And so, you know what? And this is another lesson we're going to hit on, is that people will do what you expect them to do if it's in line with what their goals are. And they will reach like you never heard of. And I've learned that through my career from 2004 to now. What I ask people to do and get them to do is so more, they would consider crazy than what I asked them to do back then. And we can get more into that as to what I have them do. But transitioning into that, where you can provide that for somebody, where they have to send me a plan in the morning. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to just say proactive. In the morning, you're going to send me a picture of the scale. You're going to send me what day we're on, day 1 of 30 or day 2 of 30, so you know where you are. M1, M is for meal, M1, M2, M3, M4, M5. And you don't have to put any measurements. You can put egg whites and spinach. You can put 4 eggs with avocado, whatever it is. But you don't even have to put 4. Just put avocado. This is the point. I want to see that you're thinking about what you're going to eat, where you're going to be, and what you're going to eat during the day. 60 seconds in the morning to think about. Otherwise, what do you hear people say? I got caught. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I didn't have anything to eat. Well, it's because you were not proactive. So, okay, let's address the problem. If that's the main problem, that's a pretty easy solution to say, just have it available, know where you are, have a couple of emergency strategies, and then you can get on point.
I mean, you're essentially equipping them with the accountability and solutions when they come into problems.
That's right. So you've got to text me in the morning, an AM text with those things. Plus, you're going to tell me what your exercise plan is, your keto stick color, because I want to know if they're in ketosis, because 99% of the people that come to me are insulin resistant. They're not insulin sensitive. So if they sniff a carb, things are not going to work for them. I'm sure as we've grown up in this, man, you see how the nutritional expertise and statistics are showing that it's the processed and starchy carbohydrates that are really holding people back from their quote unquote body fat dreams, even their health dreams, as opposed to the high fats. So keto stick, and then weekly goal. Like what are you working for this week? So that's the first morning text. And I want to say something about the scale too, because there's a lot of people that say, look, don't get on the scale, don't worry about the scale. And so I'm right down in the middle. If you put all your marbles on the scale, I mean, just get ready for the sucker punch of the universe, because that thing, it will drive you nuts. Mm-hmm. But what I have people do is send me that, because whether they tell me that or not, they've grown up in America. They've gotten on a scale. if they can see that scale go down, if I can teach them to manipulate or beat the scale into their favor, it gives them this much power, so that they understand, why is that scale different? What makes it move? What goes up and down? So they send me that picture every morning so that I can see. If it goes down, I tell them why. If it goes up, I tell them why, or ask them a question, right? It went up. Why? Well, did you eat at a restaurant last night? Did you have more sodium? Did you eat more calories? Did you eat later? Did you drink water at nighttime? Are you taking medicine? How much sleep did you get last night? Do you see where I'm going with this? And People are like, why is it going up? Well, there are specific reasons why it would go up, but I teach them that. So that first text, and then at nighttime, they send me a macronutrient pie chart, C for calories, S for sugar, F for fiber grams, and a little hashtag with how they feel, so that I can understand where they're at night. Hashtag hungry, hashtag excited, hashtag I want to go jump off a bridge. And, people have fun with it. I say, hey, look, if you're crazy, you got to tell me you're crazy, because otherwise I can't help you.
Yeah.
But you can see the picture, man. You can see,
Yeah.
I want in there, dude. I want in there so that I can get to you and help you.
So are you doing a certain time frame with these people, and then
Yep.
you're talking about, post that, how are you equipping them to continue on
Yep.
with that? So time frame and
Yep, you got it, man. So what I do now is a program I call the DEXA Killer. And if you don't know what a DEXA is, the DEXA scan is a dual X-ray scan that you can get done somewhere in your city. For us in Austin, it's typically down at the University of Texas. And so we get them a DEXA scan to see if you had a DEXA scan?
Yes, sir.
So when you saw that picture of your body with lean mass and fat mass, give me your reaction.
I got a fat ass. No, the lady's like, most men carry weight in their gut, but you tend to carry it in your glutes there, sir. So I was like, man, I knew I had a booty on me, but that makes it real,
Yeah, I mean, but we've been, pinched and measured and had different forms done, but did that drive that home more than anything you'd ever seen in your life?
I think it gave me perspective, definitely on my body and where I was carrying mass, and I don't know, it puts you, I think, a different awareness about your own body.
Yeah,
for sure.
And so I send people in there on purpose to get to, basically, you cannot, it's hard to begin if you don't know where you're starting from. If you want to say, I want to improve, well, you don't know if you're improving unless you know where you are. And so it's a great way for people to go in there and do that. And the human brain is very good at rationalizing everything, because we put ourselves through so much stuff, that if they see that and they see that picture, and first about half the women start to tear up. But I warn them first, but they can see it on there and it's powerful. But then they're like, okay. But see, I got them in a bear hug, man. I'm right there with them. I'm going to support you. I want you to send me the report. I'm going to tell you where we're going to go and how we're going to do it. And they're like, okay, let's go to work.
Yes.
And so now we're going to go to work for 30 days on what I call the DEXA Killer program. We're going to go get you another test in 32 days, and we're going to smash that machine. And we're going to show you how this is done. We're going to teach you how body fat is dropped. And we're going to teach you how to do it rapidly but safely. And so it's a third-party measurement. So I found that this is very motivating, because not only are they thinking, hey, what can I do? I'm at night sitting home going, how do we beat this machine? So, and by the way, if you've never heard me say this whole process of shedding body fat, or increasing your range of motion or improving your snatch, right? That stuff is never about ability. It's always about motivation. What drives you? What is important to you? What is going on there? How are you being supported through this process? And so I'm acutely aware of this. So they send me the text every day for 30 days. I send them an email and a video so that I can educate them every day with just a little snippet, so that you can listen, you can watch, you can hear me. I'm there. They bother me. I encourage them to bother me so that I can answer their questions. And then so for 30 days, that's a basic understanding of where you are. You can drop. Back when we first started this, man, 12% in 12 weeks was like a home run, grand slam, upper deck. Recently this year, I had a girl drop 6%, 3 tests in a row. She dropped 18% body fat. And dude, That's not me pinching her, giving it the old trainer wiggle, right? That is DEXA scan, 18%. And then she lost 5% on the fourth one. So she went to 23% in 120 days. I mean, just unbelievable, like 46% body fat down to 23, something along those lines. I mean, that's a different elevator.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's a different floor.
So you talked about ketones and ketosis, and so are you? Is that a primary model that you follow, the ketogenic diet, or is that for certain people?
So I don't follow the ketogenic diet per se, but I will tell you that the fastest, and I try to follow best practices. So whenever I see somebody doing something that's working for clients, I try to incorporate it into my program to give my clients the best possible experience. And I noticed that it's something that I was doing ancillarily, if that's even a word, in the program. But I noticed that if we concentrated on it a little bit more, having a little bit of the MCT oil, having a little bit more avocado, having a little bit more of the almond butter, just some good fats added into the diet. I mean, you just saw the New York Times article here a couple of weeks ago about how adding more fat into your diet, reduced your risk of death in Alzheimer's by like 20%, something like that. So for health reasons, but for body fat reduction reasons, most people, mentioned it earlier. Are you familiar with insulin resistance and insulin sensitivity?
Yes.
Most of the front runners in fitness are talking about this. Charles Poliquin, if you know him, I love listening to that guy. He's no nonsense. But there is a large piece of the population that is insulin resistant. And basically what that means is if you've carried 30 or 40 more pounds than is clinically healthy for the last 10 or 15 years, your body, when you eat processed carbohydrates or even starchy carbohydrates, will create more insulin than is necessary, and it shoves those calories into fat, slows everything down. And so what I say in layman terms is if you sniff a carbohydrate, you're not losing weight. So I get these people come to me all the time. I can't lose weight. I've tried everything. I'm working my tail off, all of that. And I say, look, I'm going to ask you to do this because I've seen this 1,000 times, but now it's just more concentrated. So the keto stick is a way to really dial it in.
Got it.
Yep. And so you have the keto stick. And then the other thing is these activity trackers, man. They are unbelievable when you're talking about getting somebody to understand where they are and what they're doing in fitness. And the one I'm wearing now is a Polar M400, M as in Mary. Hopefully there's some even better ones coming out. Under Armour makes one. It's a little more expensive, but it's pretty dynamite. It's a heart rate monitor combined with an activity tracker. So like the Fitbit, for instance, great entry level type of thing because the wrist technology, for the heart rate, if you've seen it, it's okay for sleeping and for walking around. But as soon as your heart rate gives above 100, 120 beats, like say doing Fran, it's cooked. There's no way that thing's tracking your heart rate. And you can't breathe, you can barely talk, and it's like 104 beats. Dude, there is nothing more demotivating than seeing that when you're trying to be accurate and give all your work. So these activity trackers come with a heart rate strap so that during your workout, you can track that accurately to get credit, so to speak, for what you're doing. And then at the end of the day, before it was just formulas on the internet on how many calories that you burnt in a day as a human being. These things have a very complex algorithm with all of your metrics so that you can say, look, over a 24-hour period, how many calories did you really burn? 2,800, 1,900, 3,400? What does that look like for you so that we can, and man, I'm telling you, if somebody works with me on what I call the kitchen sink, which is just everything thrown into one, I can get pretty darn close to their DEXA forecast at the end of 30 days. But the neat thing about these watches is that people can see the math, right? A calorie, is not a calorie. But when you can combine macros, right, carbohydrates and fat and protein, along with a little bit of calorie control. I'm not a huge calorie control guy. I'm just aware that you've got to burn more than you take in. And so how many calories does it take to keep your lean mass and to keep you from starving? Because when people get hungry, they quit. I don't know if you're familiar with that, right? It's like no matter how motivational I am, if you're hungry, it's a fitness, I'm out the door. This program's not working for me. So it's my responsibility to provide that. But this data, these metrics, exactly what I was doing in management consulting. I mean, it is my dream, man, to get people in these incredible one-on-one situations where it is the best possible fitness experience of their life. And these metrics are a piece of it where I can read these boards and see everything. Man, I can see how much so I'm going to tell you about the maintenance. You asked me about the maintenance post 30 days. I'm going to get into it right now. But this allows me to see how much you sleep, how much you sit, how much you stand, how much you walk, and how much you work out. That is an insane level of what I call fitness stalking. And so what is the major problem? I promise you, any program that Carrie's doing, your sister, works. Any program that you're doing works. Any program, 95% of the books you go get at Barnes & Noble work. What do you think is the missing ingredient from these programs?
I would say accountability.
Accountability. Nobody who is willing to say, and this is where I started from. Remember Body for Life?
Yes.
Bill Phipps, 12-week program?
Right.
This is what essentially got me to do. I'm looking around going, why is there nobody that can take me through Body for Life? Like, I don't have the discipline to do this myself. I just don't. So won't somebody walk me through it? And so it's accountability. And then levels of accountability. And people want them. They want that experience to have a coach walk them through this because it's painful, man. I mean, it is painful for these folks to go from one way of life to this other way of life because they want results. And, man, it is a stark – it's not like just one or two changes, man. And people – let me tell you, people are not coming to me eating 4 quarts of ice cream a night. They're coming to me eating fairly healthy, but they're eating 100 grams of sugar a day, and they don't even know it. A lot of times – you ever hear this? Well, man, I'm doing pretty good. I have a smoothie in the morning. It's got milk and a banana and some honey and see what else do I have in there. Let's see. Got some orange juice. It's like, dude, that's 100 grams of sugar. Easy, right there. You should, if you're trying to shed body fat, you should be eating 20 grams max a day. And in breakfast, you ate 100 grams. There's easy, definable reasons why you're not able to shed body fat off. And it's up to me to create a game and an environment where we can practice this so you get more comfortable with it. But the fitness talking is the way that I take that on is that, hey, look, during this program, I'm going to teach you what you like about fitness, or we're going to help each other understand, hey, do you like CrossFit? Guess what? I know one of the best guys in the business. I can introduce you to him. Hey, do you like running? Look, I know one of the best people in the business. I can introduce you to him. What about yoga? So all the way during their program, I'm trying to get them to reach out and find out what it is that they love, right? When they're coming to work out with me, there's very few people that they like the result. But to come in and say, man, I just love going to see that David King for the workout. No, most of the time it's like, man, I feel empowered, but man, my ass is being whipped. So you want to find out what they love so they'll do it long term, right? Yeah. And so, and then post 30-day DEXA Killer, I do a fitness stalking where I don't work them out, I just watch them for the month. I just keep them accountable to what it is that they want, and then we slowly wean them off to, okay, what are you going to do next? How are you going to get involved in this? What is your next game? And I teach people to do what I've done with my own body, which is to find the next challenge. And for people, there's 2 things people say. I don't want to think about my food. Well, if you don't want to think about your food, then make peace with being the weight that you're at, because nobody's going to love you any less, but you're not, even, you can't out-exercise it. If you're over 30, no way. The second thing is what they say when they don't want to think about their food, and they also don't want to track things, something of that nature. So look, nobody loves you any less, but if you want these results, there's a few things that you're going to have to learn to do, and whenever you're ready, come find me. I only want what you want.
Yeah. That's powerful, man. Well, cool. We're going to move into some questions, some specific questions, and I'm going to get them off the board here.
Yeah.
Man, so we talked about the Hummer, but over the course of your career, your greatest challenge or struggle?
Yeah.
What would you hit on that?
I will tell you that it is keeping the dream alive. It's probably because taking those gut punches, moving through those $27,000 mistakes.
$27,000.
Yeah. Not all of them are that large, but when you talk about different projects that you try to, you overreach, or you've read a book that I know we've both read. It's called From Good to Great. Mm-hmm. And in that book, there's something called the hedgehog theory, about finding out what it is that you're world class at and sticking to that. Basically what our coaches used to say, don't get outside your wheelhouse. You're not a running back, block somebody. If you get outside of your wheelhouse and you start spending money outside of your wheelhouse, get ready to walk around with your stomach in knots, because that is, man, staying in my wheelhouse and recognizing what it is that I'm, good at and how I can help people the most is a huge lesson. But yes, it was a website thing, an idea that I had. I did it, and guess what, man? 2 years later, nobody gave a crud about websites. Everybody was on their phone. So then I was going to have to spend another deal. I was like, you know what? I'm out. I recognize, and it was the day I was just feeling, I'm really a passive guy, man. And I was just getting all bent up, and one day I woke up, you know what? It's done. I'm moving on. I get it. I made a mistake, and I wrote it off. I said, you know what? It's done. $27,000 gone of my money, my family's money. Everything was really hard, but It's like, man, you got to keep the dream alive, and ain't no use looking in the rearview mirror. Let's rock and roll. But keeping the dream alive, getting those punches is probably the most challenging thing. But that is why you hire a coach. Get somebody that you sit at Starbucks with and talk to. You know, one of the coolest things about today's environment is that you can listen to podcasts like this one. I think one of the questions that comes up with me often is, what podcast do you listen to? And, you know, that's a really, you know, people know who listen to this one already. It's a really great resource for finding things out that you can listen to in your car while you're driving through traffic. And listening to Tim Ferriss's podcast, where his podcast, he was known as the 4-Hour Workweek guy. I promise you, he's going to become known as the Tim Ferriss podcast guy in the future, because he takes world-class performers, everybody from Navy SEALs to Tony Robbins to authors to artists to finance guys, and he breaks down what it is that makes them successful in an interview. And it just blows my mind, everything to pick up. But doing that, one of the things, I believe you've gone through the Landmark Forum. Is that correct?
Yes.
I'm not a huge fan of the big recruitment tactic of the Landmark Forum, but I can tell you, man, if you're willing to go and sit a weekend through that thing and call a good friend before you call your parents and invite them in there, because you get so amped up, you get so happy, you just want everybody else to want what you found, but do it for you. But it allows you to see in a really clear fashion, like you are the captain of your ship, like the Invictus poem. You are responsible. Everything that's going on in your life here, at some point, if you look back far enough, you set that in motion, and you can change it. You might be able to change it tomorrow, but you can create whatever it is you want in your life. And if you don't feel like that, you're not just going to be able to want to enough to change that. But something like the Landmark Forum or something like the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People are an incredible resource in one weekend to get that mindset switched to, I can do anything I put my mind to, like our folks used to say.
Yeah. So moving to our next question, what is the best advice that you've ever received?
When I first started out, I went to talking about seminars. I went to Franklin Covey put on a seminar called What Matters Most. And I remember she was probably about a 5-foot blonde woman. She walks out on stage, and to an audience of about 500 people, she said, I don't want any of you to ever say that you don't have the time. Everybody's got 24 hours. You just choose to use it differently. I mean, dude, like it was yesterday. And so I think about that often. Whenever I get busy or whenever I think I don't have the time or I'm behind the 8 ball, I'm responsible for my schedule. I'm responsible for what I do and how I balance my life. And yes, sometimes it gets overwhelming, but that has been, you as well, I'm sure you've heard a lot of things during the years that have helped you. But that thing in particular, where again, this realization that you're the captain of your ship, that you've been given a lot of divine gifts, but that your journey to be able to be of service and help the most that you can, given your gifts and talents, you have a lot of decisions that you can make to make sure that you're doing the right thing.
Gotcha. So kind of bringing our whole podcast to a head here, is there any certain things that you would like to talk about in the sense of just amplifying a message or your craft or your skill or any causes that you're passionate about?
I think that it would be the acceptance of not being able to do this by yourself. I think it's one of the biggest hurdles that people face. So like if this were my area of expertise in getting people to accomplish fitness goals from a body fat standpoint, usually is if you can get to a point where you say, you know what, it's counterintuitive to our culture to throw in the white towel and surrender to something, because it's like, man, you know what I talked about earlier, is just being able to bleed for your cause and going forward. Well, in this particular endeavor, it doesn't work that way. You have to say, you know what, I can't do this by myself. And in my journey too, I could never have done this by myself. With this fitness business or anything that I've accomplished in my life, it all takes a team around you. But just give up the notion that you should be able to do this by yourself and go ask for help. Go get a coach. Go get a workout partner. Go get a friend. Look online. Do something to help you get out. For the business people, you know as well as I do, man, you can cut years off of developing your business and what you want to do by hiring a coach. You think, well, that's going to cost a lot of money. I'm normally not an advocate of going into debt, but if you're struggling and your dream is on the line, if you want to put $1,000 on a credit card to get you a coach to come in there and get you on point working towards what you want, then go ahead and knock that down.
That's what's up.
Right on, man.
Mr. King, we appreciate you coming in today. And we look forward to seeing your progress in the future. But if people want to find you, where can they go?
They can find me at davidkingfitness.com or on Facebook, David King Fitness.
Awesome, Dave. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Amplified Podcast. You can find more at theamplifiedpodcast.com. Our social links to Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Join us in conversation. Let us know what you're thinking and how we can best service you guys. We will see you again really soon.